Okay, the recording has started.
Huh?
Search पाहिजे का?
Okay, may I request everybody? I mean, either we can use raising a hand. I mean, you are Judy, you're going to take it forward, but
Yes.
I mean, the panelists will speak, and after that, if we can just have people raising their hand to ask question and interact, and then others to be mute, because otherwise this noise is creating. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a very good suggestion. I think what I'd like to do is start perhaps to see if Betty, I know, I hope you're still connecting. I think people might want to know a little bit about what's happening to Madan Sara since COVID and since the earthquake. And I know you've interviewed a couple of women to find out, 2 or 3 women. Betty?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes?
Can you hear me, Judy?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm going to stay with the video because the bandwidth is very narrow and uncertain. Thank you all for joining us and for watching this so important story about Madan Sara. Since the earthquake on the 14th of August, we had the opportunity to 5 Madan Sara, ranging in age from 39 to 65. And of course, their life is completely turned upside down, but not only by the earthquake, which I'll get into in a minute, but also because of the cut in the road at Martissan in Port-au-Prince. So trucks going in and out of the capital, if they can go out, have to pass through terrifying gunfire, being robbed, and also observing dead bodies on the road in awful situations and conditions. So that's number one, is the uncertainty, terror, and sadness. So that has to do with the political situation. Then there is the earthquake. And so because the bridge going into town here is broken and large trucks cannot go over it and have been stuck going through the river, Madan Sara have said they've lost all of their wares. Some spent as much as $300 and all of it just rotted. They're very, very, very upset. And so in addition to suffering damage to their houses and to their friends and community, they've also lost access to their business. So as it said in the film, they lost, they loan money at between 25 and 30% interest. And so they lost all of that. They also said that they would do something else if they could, but they can't. They have children to put in school. They have, this is all they know how to do. Their request is a boat to come back and forth to this part of the country to go, to allow them at least a more safe passage to Port-au-Prince. So it's tough. We've got the earthquake, the rain that came after that, the political uncertainty, the inflation, and they are, you know, surprisingly still have hope. I don't know how they do it. So that's it in a nutshell from me, Betty, and Jeremy.
And I think they all cited security as being a major issue.
Right, right, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And we, so for, I guess first I'd like to start with any questions or comments people have about the film or what's going on in Haiti. And then I'd like to have Godwin comment a little bit on similarities that he sees. So are there questions or comments that people have about the movie or the situation of Madan Sara in Haiti? And I'd also like to point out that it looks like we have Lou Childs, who is one of the co-producers of the movie, on the discussion. So Lou, if you'd like to join us with any comments as we go along, please do. Yes.
Judy?
Hello, everybody.
Okay.
Hi. I just wanted to say hi. Thank you for introducing me, Judy. Thank you for watching the film.
As far as comments in Haiti, obviously, the situation with the earthquake and I guess the lack of government presence in the area, as well as the issues with the people on the ground in the community, with them not being able to sell and not having access to their financing to actually get back on their feet. So it seems like it's a evolving situation, but I think hopefully with the amount of aid that's coming into the country this time, there will be a better plan to kind of facilitate where things need to go so people can get back on their feet, rather quickly. So that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Lou. Bangle? Dr. Bangle?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. At the outset, I thank Judy for making this possible so that all of us can see this particular movie and the problem the Haitians are facing. I also congratulate the producer of this particular movie for bringing this important topic to the surface. And now we never knew that this is something which on one side it's very good that it's a women's movement or the cooperative that is playing very important part in the overall Haitian community. But unfortunately, so many adversities are there. In addition, these natural disasters are also playing important role, maybe devastating role. So I feel that it's a very major issue these women are facing. And I think the political leadership and maybe international support can only help these women. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Judy. Can I say I have
Of
a few
course.
questions? Yeah. First of all, again, congratulations to each and everybody who was involved in this film. What I found interesting, it was a gripping film. One thing, the one scene which stayed with me and I could relate as well when they said the competition is still there. I wanted to ask, do men take advantage of that competition with Madan Sara? When it was mentioned. And also the issue of burning the markets. If you could just give a historical perspective as why is it happening? Is it the government itself which is doing and the government has not recognized Madan Sara? So whether Madan Sara being a national network, do they have a union? How do they organize themselves? It was mentioned, but I'm just comparing. In India, we also have self-help groups of women cooperatives, right? And now they are also facing the same problem of credit and loan. So I just wanted to know about these two specific issues. Anybody from the film?
So Lou, would you like to comment on that first? Because I think you're the person in the best position.
Sure. So in regards to the unionization of Madan Sara, there isn't a formalized union. I think they're trying to do something of the sorts now to actually build a union among themselves to kind of advocate for what they need and talk about the issues. Most people in Haiti, I believe, are aware of them, but like myself, I didn't know about it deeply until I saw the film and started, researching for the film. As far as I think there was a question about accessing financing and stuff like that. The banking sector in Haiti is very, how shall I say, it's very non-competitive. There's only but a few banks, and the way they do their loaning, how they loan out money isn't necessarily conducive to, regular people who need regular financing for, stuff like cars, just buying like consumer products. So the Madan Sara is even worse. So they have to end up going to these microfinanciers who don't have the collateral that the bank would have, like in terms of like the amount of financing available to them, so deposits and all that type of stuff. So then that means that for them to make their money, they have to charge, high rates, like what you heard in the film, 30%, 25%. So I guess when you see the woman crying, it is partially about the food and the material that they lost, but also the amount of money, that they have to pay back, and you have to go about how they're going to go pay it back. So, it's a kind of a circle situation where things don't change because nothing else changes. So it just hampers the Madan Sara in the end.
And I think the point that was made about the political situation not being stable enough to support there's no security. I mean, so the fact that people are burning the markets, I mean, nobody specifically knows who's doing that I'm aware of, Lou. I don't know.
As far as I know, I think the burning of the markets is more of a signal to other, I guess, rival politicians or rival groups in the market, because as I understand, there isn't, I mean, the regulation of the market is very localized. So you'd figure like your mayor, your governor, I guess, whatever the equivalent is in Haiti. But, under that, a lot of these guys that I think work for those local municipalities don't get paid. So it's kind of like go out there and, get whatever money you can get. So with that being said, now you have, unofficial quote unquote groups, collecting taxes and collecting fees that may or may not be officially associated with the local municipalities. So then that's where you might have, issues with other unofficial people who want, some of the money being generated. So that's where you might get the burning of the markets.
The other thing is, in terms of the banking situation, it's not accessible, but I think to understand how fragile it is in the Jeremy area, there were three major banks and two of them were damaged in the earthquake. So nobody can get money, even if they have money in a bank. So Haiti is called a fragile state for a very good reason, which is that there's really not a lot that's functional. So part of the problem is there were lots of people who had needs before the earthquake, for example, and now there are even more, and those needs are more extreme. Betty, I wanted to ask you if you wanted to comment a little bit on that, because I know there was some research that showed most of these women borrow from family members because that's what's available to them, family members and including their husbands, believe it. So the business within the family can sometimes be separate. So Betty and then Surika.
Yeah, thank you, Judy. One thing about burning markets that I've never seen that in rural markets out here in the Grandans in the last 30 years that I know of, although people have gone in from time to time and shot gunfire in the air, but not the kind of devastation that you saw in Port-au-Prince, which I agree with Lou is the borrowing, people borrow from anyone they can, and as this is women are very powerful in this regard in marketing in Haiti. They're really very strong. They borrow from their families, they borrow from Banco, which gives a better rate. They sometimes form an association and borrow as a group, but that I haven't heard very much of. But when they lose it all, as they just did again, they have to pay it back. So then they have to find ways of borrowing from family again to get their kids back in school or their grandchildren back in school and fed and clothed in a time when, we really do produce a fair amount of produce that goes to Port-au-Prince and they can't get it out. So everybody suffers not only with food, but with marketing and with the dynamic nature of sales, because there's no boats either. And we're on the shore, on the ocean. So it's a multiple insult that we all have to work together to move forward from.
Thank you, Betty. Surika?
Yes. First of all, let me thank you, Judy, for bringing such a striking film to us. I have many feelings. I went through many feelings after watching the whole film. So initially I thought, about the whole sector, though it was in informal sector, I thought it was quite organized also in a way that people were trying to bring each other in. The women were trying to help each other survive and learn the business, and be able to help their families. Initially, I went through that those feelings. And then of course the insecurities and the struggle and the misery and the political situation and all those problems of microfinancing and all that. And in the end, what struck me was how the family and the children still appreciated their moms and their aunts, and how the community itself brought up these children and they could become doctors, lawyers, and reach, that was so wonderful. I mean, they still, in spite of the misery, there was such a lot of strength in these women. And of course, yes, about how we should value them. And I could, think about, I try to relate to my own country, India, and I don't find that such a organized way of informal sector. I can't find in India, though women are there in the informal sector and they do work, they have their own small businesses, and the type of, I found that in Haiti, the women work more. They are contributing more, and I mean, they are the backbones of how, and they are the ones they can take their family forward with the earnings. And I would also like to say that in
Oh, you just muted.
Yeah, I just muted myself. So I think in India, because the political system is better, the type of help the system offers women is more. Just I would like to share one instance, a story of, I visited to one area here called as Vadki, which is nearby district. I went there for a camp, a diagnostic camp. And there I found this camp was actually organized by women who run small businesses. These businesses were dairy farming and other small businesses. But I found that such a lot of differences there between Haiti and India, because these businesses were actually helped by the government. The government is providing the system to create a network and self-help groups and help women to empower. So I don't know whether this the whole the political system, I think, has to change. I don't know how it can happen in Haiti, but everywhere in the world we can learn from each other. And I really admire the Haitian women here. Thank you.
Thank you, Zurika. And that's a lovely segue to talking about the broader implications.
Yeah, and the last sentence about fluttering lanterns in the hills, that's so touching, and let us tip our hats for the Haitian women.
Yeah.
So Edwidge Danticat is a very wonderful writer. I recommend her to any of you. All of her books are extraordinary. But the other thing is that your comment about the strength of these women, which I think we always have to come back to. The problem is they don't get the support they need and deserve. But in Haiti, women are called the potomatan, or the center pole of the house that gets built. And without them, there is no home. So there's recognition of the importance of their role, but it doesn't expand to the kinds of security issues and support that these women need. Godwin, I want to turn it over to you, because we said we were going to talk about how this applies and whether there's a connection between West Africa and Haiti in terms of this type of a system.
And I would like to build on the last point you made, that women are the pillars of the Haitian economy. It's similar even in Nigeria, because evidence is clear on the fact that women contribute up to 70 to 80% of the agricultural labor force. And it's not only in the area of distribution, like we have learned from the Madan Sara experience, but also even in processing, in production, and in many other areas. And actually, when I watched this, it wasn't difficult for me to conclude that it is quite similar to what we have in Nigeria. And in fact, I dug into literature and found that there's a saying in Creole, and I would be happy to hear what Betty will say about this. But there's a saying in Creole that, and I want to say it's like it's in French, nous c'est Igbo. Nous c'est Igbo, meaning we are Igbos. You know, and they're looking at the, and of course, the Igbo tribe is one of the nation states within the Nigerian Federation. And looking at the film, I see similarities in terms of place, in terms of people, in terms of products, in terms of processes, you know, and we have just focused on one element of the Madan Sara concept, and that is distribution and marketing. Okay, they are involved in so many other aspects of the economy. So I still insist, Judy, that there are similarities rather than differences. And I know that I want to commend WHTF for really, really taking this up. And I know that many more things will come out of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Godwin. And I just want to say, Madan Sara, by the way, refers to the name of a bird that can go from place to place and always find food.
Can I comment a bit more on that? You know, within the Igbo setting, actually, women are often associated. Women are often associated with the name of a woman is usually associated with the name of the daughter, or sometimes tied to the trade. So I don't know the background to the Madam Sara name, but it's possible that the madam, who is a woman, worked so closely with a daughter called Sarah, and both of them became popular and harnessing from that connection. So in the Igbo setting, it's similar. Like my mother is well known when you say Mama Godwin, you know? So, and then also women are linked to the trades that they are involved in, like those of them who fry bean cake, you know, that's their trade. Usually called like Mama Akara, you know, connected to, you know, and if they are selling vegetable mamas, you know, and I think it's even similar to even in the Yoruba culture, our brothers and sisters who live in the southwestern part of Nigeria. Okay, so women are usually linked. The names of women are usually linked to what they do.
Betty, do you want to comment?
I was listening with great interest about the how that all works in his area. I don't know about mothers then naming their daughter with the market in mind, but rather the only thing I ever heard was that it's similar to the bird that always finds food and never rests, which is the plight of Haitian women, always working, never resting. Maybe Lou has another idea about that.
I just want to respond to Glory, who asked about when the movie was created. So maybe Lou can address. I know it was made over a period of several years. And then we can talk about the COVID situation, which she was also asking about.
Sure. So the movie it took about 5 years to make. Eitan, I think, started shooting maybe 5 years ago. So I think some of the interviews are kind of 5 years apart because, you know, independent film, you got to finance it, it takes time, etc. So I kind of came on later when the film was almost finished as a producer. And then, you know, we just kind of worked together to finish it. So it took about 5 years. But in regards to the nickname, Madan Sara, I think it's a mixture of like, I think Haitian humor is kind of funny in a way. So they always try to give you like a nickname. So I think Madan Sara is just like, you know, something that's kind of evolved because, you know, these women, they get up at 2, 3 in the morning to start their work before they even get to the market. So in terms of like amassing the produce and going to the different farms to collect their goods to sell, and then when they get to the market, they're always working because there's no like bathroom breaks or anything like that. You're just constantly sitting trying to make whatever quota you got to make. So I think it's kind of a mixture of all of that because they're never really sleeping or resting.
So thank you, Lou. Glory wanted to know about the COVID situation in Haiti. Betty, I'm going to let you respond to that.
Well, it's a very good question. Haiti is a very young country. I think the majority of the population is under 15. People have said they've lost taste and had fevers, but the death rate in Haiti reportedly by the government is very low, like, I don't know, maybe 500 people. But there have been a few tests up until recently, no vaccines, and there are, I think, 500,000 vaccines in the country of 11 million. People who've died of it, people with comorbidities who are older. Many use teas from Africa, from their heritage. So they would use SOC and do vapors and all those kinds of things. And there have been a lot of speculation about why COVID deaths have been very small in Haiti. Very few, even just by asking people around, do you know anybody who's died of COVID? The answer is usually no. Surprisingly, I'm not sure with the influx of people and the Delta variant, but at this point, there are no intensive care units here in this region of the country. There are maybe 150 ICU beds that I know of in the country, in Port-au-Prince and Mirebalais. There may be more, but I don't know about that. But people here, they say that because they had BCG vaccine, they're protected, or because they have brought this strength from Africa, they're just not dying. But I don't see very many deaths. I don't see children dying. I live down the street from the hospital. I work with the epidemiologist in the region. We don't know why, but boy, it would be just one more thing that we don't have to contend with people dying left and right, as they are in many other countries, as they did with cholera, which got us in 2010 and 11. So I don't know why it's not here. And many of us got vaccinated, but that was in the States. And I don't know. It's God's grace, maybe, that people aren't maybe they're getting COVID, but they're not dying of it. I don't know why.
So thank you, Betty. I think I'd like to sort of end the discussion by talking about strategies that we can think about. I'm sorry, Imani. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah. Yes. Just I'm impressed by the movie and by the work of these women, these strong women. My question, because there are similar ones in Egypt also, who are the informal sector. They are selling in the local markets, and they are. What about the health status of them and health care? Do they have insurance or coverage, or they have access to health facilities as a whole? Because they are carrying a lot of burden in working and caring for their families and to the economy. What about their health status and health care in Haiti? Yeah.
Well, at least out here, of course, women and children are the focus of most international aid programs for pregnancy and early childhood. So women get care during that period of their life. For elder women, there's very little. There is a high rate of diabetes and hypertension in the population here, limited resources, no insurance that most people can afford. There are rural clinics, there are church-based clinics, but generally speaking, women do use the health system more than men do, but the resources are limited for women who, as I said, these women are between 40 and 65 or 70, still actively working, and it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
for them to get the medicine they need and stuff.
I appreciate that. I believe so.
So actually, that's related to the way I thought we could wrap up the discussion, which is to
Yeah.
talk about what we might be able to do as an organization. And I'd like to, again, remind everybody, you can always go to our website, which is w24f.org. But clearly, women are involved in the informal market economy at one level or another all over the world. And the question is, what could we do as an organization to be supportive, to think about issues like health problems, as Amani brought up, and to get a better handle on what's going on. And Kamini, I know you've been very involved with organizing women farmers. And I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, but I'd like to hear from everybody. So Kamini, do you want to start us?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the world's largest, actually largest in the peaceful protest is on, you know, here in the capital of India, and it has completed 9 months. And actually, women farmers are the one who are actually leading and actually are the main foundation, but they are, you know, still recognition is not there. I mean, they're not even owning 12% of land, and they are like 72% of population is there in that force, the women who are working. But what has happened politically through this protest is also that I think for the first time, the recognition by politically by everybody, especially the farmers, that women and their contribution. And what has happened in this protest is also that how patriarchy, how women are how men are realizing that the work which women do, which is the invisible labor, you know, it is work actually. And, you know, all over the world, we are saying that the women, when they're working at home or even when they're working on the fields, the amount, the invisible workforce which they are giving. I mean, if you take it in the amount of dollars, how many, I mean, you know, billions of dollars they are earning. So I think the recognition of women's movement coming together, and this film, as Sureka was also saying, Madan Sara has really shown that how women can do what they can do. But now we have to see that how we can organize. If a union is being formed, you know, we are looking at unions, how they could then fight, maybe legally and politically as well, is what I think.
Other thoughts? Godwin?
Yeah, first of all, I think in our individual countries, we might need to do some basic assessment of though there are abundant evidence that we can also lean on, and on the basis of that, design community-based programs that may address some of the issues that have been raised, like setting up an insurance a plan for the Madan Saras in those settings. I think we have a lot that we can, as a group.
I will say that there was a study done in 2012 in Haiti, in another area than where we work. And it was pretty clear that many of the business practices expose these women to some hazardous conditions. So where they have to sleep when they go to the market, you know, the lack of any kind of facilities or support for them, as well as the security dangers that were well documented in the movie. So, other thoughts? Adish?
Judy, this is Nigar. Can you hear me?
Nigar. Yes, Nigar.
Nigar, can't hear you, your voice.
How welcome our WHTF would be. I can hear you.
How welcome what would be?
Organizations such as WHTF to get involved or do something about it. I mean, in Haiti, because, you know, the government is very pretty unstable. So I was just thinking how, you know, if we want to do something or we want to get involved, how would it be like it? Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. So I mean, I'm not sure that I think I'm talking more broadly than just Haiti now, because I think these are issues that cross countries. But, you know, in Haiti, there evidently is some limited association, which I believe someone, I think Lou put in the chat, and which we could follow up with. But I think some of these issues are kind of cross country, and like women's health issues, which are deeply related to this kind of work, are things that we might have a broader impact thinking across countries and not just within one country. So
just a,
oh, Lou,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. No, that's okay.
No, I was just gonna say, in terms of what can be done, I mean, we were thinking of like, you know, what are the next steps for the documentary and how we can really try to help these women. So what we've been doing is reaching out to different institutions and organizations throughout the world, because, you know, the issues in the informal market and, you know, women's presence in it is it's global. So we've been reaching out to different organizations and institutions to kind of do screenings, you know, to kind of bring the movies there. We currently have, I think the University of Lagos is interested in screening the film. So, you know, and actually organizations in India as well too. So that's one thing we're trying to do to kind of start the conversation among the different, I guess you could say, the global South. But in regards specifically to Haiti, in regards to health, we were talking to this clinic, it's called DASH in Haiti. I believe they're only in the major cities, Cap, Haitian, Port-au-Prince, and maybe a few outlying areas, but they do a lot of preventative health. So like, you know, annual checkups where people will be able to get, you know, checkups on cholesterol, diabetes, which are a lot of the main drivers of how people get sick. So we were talking to them about possibly doing some type of collaboration, maybe using diaspora dollars, you know, Haitian diaspora dollars to kind of pay for like an insurance program. So the Madan Sara, and I guess any in-country Haitian could get access to healthcare. So that's just one idea that we were thinking of in terms of health. But yeah.
Thank you. And I'd also like to say that Madan Sara is making sure that this film gets shown in as many parts of Haiti as possible. And we were going to have it in the Grandans until the earthquake. So hopefully we'll be able to reschedule. But I see two other hands. Max, Robinette.
Yes, hi. So my two questions kind of involve possible solutions. The first one, I know we were talking about the global South in general, but just going back to Haiti in particular, I don't know if the political situation would allow for it, but has there been any attempt by the Madan Sara to kind of provide their own security in the markets, like involving family members or you know, other people who could help out that way? And the second question was about that statistic of the 70% of the economy coming from imports. Are there any policies or pressures you could put on the countries who are flooding the Haitian markets with their goods to try to make Haiti like a more viable trading partner?
Well, as to the second part of the question, the United States is the primary state that's flooding the Haitian market with cheap goods. So we have a lot of work to do in my country to reduce that a little bit. Amani, just a minute. And as far as the first one, I don't know, Lou or Betty, about the idea of family providing security or Madan Sara hiring their own security. I think that would be difficult, but. Lou?
Yeah, I guess in terms of them providing their own security, it's something that I've actually asked myself, but I don't think it's a real possibility, because I think it's really the responsibility of the localities to provide the security, where you have like the proper amount of police and, you know, whoever else to kind of make sure that the market runs in an efficient, safe way. So I could see them, you know, maybe wanting the desire to have their own security, but I think ultimately, you know, the locality, which is actually taxing them and taking, you know, a nice size of their fees, should be the ones to actually provide the security. So
Thank you. I agree with you. And it might just add to the volatility of the situation. So Amani, and then I think we'll try to wrap up because I don't want to keep people too long.
Your question about what can we do as an organization, I believe that we can put in our agenda, maybe as in many grants or programs to intervene for intervention for empowering women similar to Madan Sara and household heads, working women who are vulnerable, and to support their health and empower them. So I believe that we can encourage empowering these vulnerable groups of women who are actively working and supporting themselves.
Thank you. Sarah? Sarah, were you going to say something? Maybe that's like Alexa. It lit up because we said her name. I don't know. And Aris, did you want to say something? I never got back to you.
Yes, I was thinking about this film about the brave of this woman, and I think it is necessary to highlight. But in the other hand, I felt that they are against the war. It's incredible, this situation, and they have to struggle every day, every moment. So it's a very emotive for me. That's to see in this film that situation.
Thank you. Well, I think that's a wonderful place to end the discussion. I think these women are an inspiration to all of us. And I think this film has done an extraordinary job of highlighting what the issues are across the global South in terms of the very important role that women play in the economy and the way they are not well respected and supported as they should be. So hopefully this is a conversation that we will continue to have in future webinars. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Godwin. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Lou. And thank you all for participating.
And as the program chair, I would like to
Thank you.
The program committee chair of WHTF, I would like to thank Dr. Judy and Godwin and Betty for this wonderful discussion, and all the participants for giving us such a lot of thoughts. And in the future, Dr. Amani also has contributed. So I would like to thank everybody for being part of this discussion and joining us. Please join us in our future meetings and visit our website w24f.org so that you can join us as members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.